Thank you. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. Thanks, Alderman Barakis.
Thank you, Deputy. Welcome everybody. Thank you for that. I'll start with, we don't need any other co-options. We have a full committee here with us. We've got Councillor Coates back. Welcome back. Move on to confirmation of the minutes.
So moved.
Alderman Briscoe. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, technical troubles. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against no. That's carried. Item 3, indication of consideration of supplementary items. Are there any?
No.
None. Very good. Part 4, indication of pecuniary and conflicts of interest. Does anybody have any conflicts of interest? No, there being none. Part 6, consideration of items of deputations. I don't think we have any either. No. I'll breeze through this one. Very. Oh, pardon me? We do have a deputation, do we? No. Oh. Oh, apologies. Item 5, transfer of agenda items.
So moved. Oh, no, there's none.
There's none.
Well, there's no one wanting to
Unless you want to. No. Very good. Okay, so part 7. Council is now acting as a planning authority. We'll start with item 7.1.1 for Mitre Crescent Sandy Bay. Does anybody want to kick things off?
Take a debate, I'll move it.
Thank you, Alderman Briscoe.
Chair, look, I do note that there's, I think, 7 representations against this. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through. And I won't be supporting it based on PD 6. So I'll be voting against the recommendation.
Very good. Deputy?
Yeah, thank you. Look, there were quite a number of representations and most of those were concerned about residential amenity and parking, particularly in that really tight street. So I think if Councillor Harvey's foreshadowing those reasons for refusal, perhaps we could include parking into that as well.
Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, yep. I will be foreshadowing refusal. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through. I just haven't found the page yet. Yep.
Which page are you looking for?
PD
Oh, okay, yep.
6, so I can list the reasons.
While Councillor Harvey's doing that, does anybody else have any comments?
That'd be a foreshadow one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Chair. Look, it is interesting, these short-term accommodation change of use. I think for the benefit of record and for other councillors and aldermen's information, it's probably worth us reflecting, and I don't want to put the director in a spot here if he doesn't quite remember, but back on the 7th of February 2022, I did ask a question, how many hotel rooms have currently been taken off market? And the director was very forthcoming in providing a response to that question on notice. And at the time the response was, there are 4 hotels within the Hobart municipality that are currently being utilised for quarantine purposes. Travelodge with 131 rooms, the Hotel Ibis with 296 rooms, the Best Western with 140 rooms, and the Ridges Hotel with 63 rooms, providing a total of 630 rooms. Now, since then, we know that some of those, the Best Western has come back onto the market in the Travelodge, but to my knowledge, it remains that the Hotel Ibis with 296 rooms and the Ridges, I believe, 63, are still off the market. So although we as a planning committee are seeing applications coming through for short-term accommodation, we must bear in mind that if we genuinely believe that markets respond to market forces, when we have the best part of 400 rooms being taken off the market in terms of hotel accommodation, in some ways this is naturally as a result of the demands of society and the demands out there. And also, I would note that when these hotels go back into the market, I mean, they're not being demolished, we will naturally see I believe, a flow of these properties back. So, look, as the rules currently stand, these applicants have every right to apply to put their house and property into the short-term rental market to fulfil a need. But likewise, they also have the ability to move them out of a short-term rental market to fulfil a need. So, look, I just would like to bring that to other members of the committee's attention, because I think it is good information and it's relevant to the ones we see before us tonight.
Councillor Harvey.
Do we have any evidence, through you, Chair, to the Director, of houses being put back onto the market and surrendering their short stay accommodation permit?
Look, I think there was, during the depths of the pandemic, there was some evidence that there might have been some of those short stay visitor accommodation properties were put back on the market.
Yep, I think there's data that does support that.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
but that wasn't a surrendering of permits, that was just put back on the market, so they can go back to short stay at any time. Yep, so I think the use of this statistic that Alderman Coates raises every single time now is irrelevant, to be honest, you know, with hotels being out of action because they've been used for COVID purposes. That's why I understand those hotels were out of action and now they've come back into action. So there's no issue there with the hotels, I don't think. And the final one, I think...
Well, there's still 360 rooms.
Yeah, yep. But I still don't think that's an excuse to continue to support short stay accommodation where there is the possibility that, or there is evidence that they do not meet the standards that the local community would like.
Have you found your...
Yeah, yep.
Dog?
Yep, I'll see if this gets through first before we worry about the... I'm foreshadowing refusal. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so did anybody else have anything to say before I do? Councillor Dunn?
Thank you, Chair. While I do consider the point raised by Councillor, I do want to point out that for me, you know, the 400 rooms or whatever number of rooms available or not is not a planning matter in consideration. I need to look at what is my brief to make this call and my judgment and decision. And on the basis of what I have read for this one here, I am using my own discretion and say that I think if I read 6.7.5 as stated here on page 23, attachment A, there is a subjective element in considering that it does have the capacity to have more people. And therefore, while on the one hand, it can be argued that the noise may not be that great and create the nuisance, on the contrary, an alternative view can be taken that it might do so because we don't have the evidence to support that particular view. And therefore, I would be voting against this. Thank you. Voting against the recommendation.
Yes. Alderman Briscoe.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I suppose the significant one is on page 24, 25, and I think the Councillor Burnett mentioned it about parking, and the officers have looked at that parking code, the performance criteria E6.6.1, and went through each of the A to E, or A to M, and concluded the proposal complies with the performance criteria. So we have got a statutory planning officer who has agreed that the proposal complies with the performance criteria. And as I said last time, until that amendment gets in, if it gets up, that was foreshadowed some months ago now, or a month ago, I believe that we're obligated by law to approve this.
Thank you, Alderman Briscoe. I'll give my look. Whilst I don't necessarily disagree with the points that Councillor Coates made, I do agree with Councillor Dutta that that they're not quite relevant to the planning application that's in front of us. Be it that they're more related to the broader issue of short stay. which is something that this council's discussed at length, but in front of us we have a planning application, and I would hope that we're not letting feelings regarding the broader issue of short stay cloud judgment based on cloud the judgment as we are making an assessment for a individual planning application against the rules of the day. I take the comments that have been made, but I will be supporting the officer's recommendation. As Councillor Dutta said, I'll be exercising my own discretion. But I think we all just need to be careful that we're not repeating the situation that we've already seen quite a few times in recent months, where these applications are getting refused, they're ending up in the tribunal, and the tribunal is repeatedly finding our reasons for refusal for these short stay applications as being without merit. So look, I'd be just putting it out there that we need to we need to ensure that we're making these assessments based on the merits or lack thereof of the applications against the scheme, and not how we would like the planning outcomes in the city to be in a perfect world. Perhaps the rules will change one day, but we haven't changed them as yet. So with that being said, I'll move the recommendations as moved by Alderman Briscoe.
I put them, actually. I put the recommendations.
He moved it, you put it.
Sorry, yeah.
I've moved it, yeah.
Yep. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against say no.
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 Show of hands. All those in favour?
Alderman Briscoe, Councillor Coates, Alderman Brothers,
And against?
Councillor Harvey, Councillor Dutta and the Deputy Lord Mayor.
So I'll put the alternative motion for refusal, and that's based on the performance criteria clause 3.1E P1, provided as follows: visitor accommodation must be compatible with the character and use of the area and not cause unreasonable loss of residential amenity, having regard to A, B, C, D, E, F. So you're familiar with those, I assume, Director? So
You're not going to put the parking one in
I will include the parking as well. Thanks for the suggestion,
then? I think you take
Deputy.
Councillor.
Yep, and also
Burnett.
for the support of that by Alderman Briscoe. So yeah, that's
That is maintaining a sense of humour.
the reasons for refusal based on 3.1E P1.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Was there any other comments, or can we put this? Deputy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Look, I'm going to support this, and I'm supporting it on planning reasons. This is based on performance criteria, and whilst I appreciate what you're saying, Chair, I don't really need a lecture every time I might vote or have a different opinion from you.
Okay. Any other comment? No, I'll move that.
I'll predict the vote.
You'll put that.
Sorry, I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And against? No.
No.
Show of hands. Favour?
Councillor Harvey, Councillor Dutta, Deputy Lord Mayor,
And against?
Alderman Briscoe, Councillor Coates and Alderman Brothers.
And that'll go to full council next week. Next item is item
Without a
7.
recommendation,
Without a recommendation. Item 7.1.2 is 5 Clarendon Street in Newtown.
I'm happy to
I move that, Chair.
Deputy, I think Councillor Harvey beat you to that. But
I'm happy to move that, and also I note that there's a requirement to make the fence 1.5 metres. Can I just confirm that?
Chair, that's correct, with a transparency
Yep.
of at
30%.
least 30%.
So I think that was the major issue with the neighbours. And this house, the previous house was burnt to the ground, I understand, or was burnt to,
Significant
damage.
structural damage.
and the replacement is very similar, I imagine. It looks like it's a period style kind of home, and the representations were mostly to do with the fence, and I think that's been resolved by the condition that it's a 1.5 fence rather than 1.8. So I'm happy with this.
Alderman
I'll
Briscoe.
support the motion too, but I think the one concern was the fencing will return to corrugated iron top with barbed wire. That wouldn't be the case. Would that be allowed under that condition?
Well, no, I think it's limited in height. I think the previous structure was quite high and topped with barbed wire, but no, the condition requires it to be to my satisfaction, I think.
Yeah, so just as a follow-up there, if someone wanted to put a barbed wire on their fence, that wouldn't be allowed unless they had condition?
Bit of the director's satisfaction.
No, it wouldn't be to my satisfaction. Obviously, it depends on the setting, of course. If it's a rural environment, you're able to fence livestock and the like in, and you'd be able to use barbed wire. But for a domestic, a suburban setting, it would be inappropriate.
Yep, thank you.
Any other comment or questions? No. In that case, I'll put the motion as moved by Councillor Harvey. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against say no. Appears to be moved unanimously. Very good. Next we're on to 7.1.4590 Mount Nelson Road. Oh, sorry, I've missed one. 7.1.3 26 Rose Hill Crescent, Lena Valley.
I'll move the recommendation, if you like.
Deputy?
Thanks, Chair. I'll move the recommendation, and I think all of the representatives were concerned about stormwater, and it's kind of a bigger issue, and I believe the director has already in place some meeting with residents, and that it's covered off in conditions anyway.
Yeah, look, I think the Deputy Lord Mayor is correct. All of the concerns related to existing stormwater conditions. One of the representatives has reached out, and we have put them in contact with the relevant officers, so we're working through the issues with the concerned residents.
Very good. Any other comment? No, I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against say no. Nice and easy. Next item, now we're up to 7.1.4. It's 590 Mount Nelson Road, Mount Nelson.
Move the item.
Any comment?
Well, only that there was no objections, no representations, and it's purely based, it's here because it's got a part of its development on council land. I think it's a right of way, isn't it, Director? Or access over our land to get the property?
Access over our land, that's correct.
Yeah. And we're happy with that, there's no issues, and I think have they been doing it in the past?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And is this a permit that will need to be applied for every year?
No, normally those licences are not necessarily renewed on an annual basis as far as I'm aware, but there is a procedure in place, I think.
Yeah. So, okay.
There's a fee, as I understand it.
Yearly fee?
Yeah.
All right. I'm happy for this to go through. Yep.
Any other comment? No. Okay, then I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And say no. Ayes have it, and that's just resolved at committee, isn't it? Yes. That one's done. Next up is 7.1.5, 78 Alexander Street to French Street, Alderman Briscoe.
I'll move the recommendation.
And this seems like a similar deal where it's here on council land. Are there any other comments?
Chair, I just have a question through you to Mr. Noy. So this is quite close to some of the student housing, which is on Alexander Road, Alexander Street. But it's just a house, like a residence, single family residence presumably. Is that similar to other houses that end of Alexander Street?
Sorry, I'm just trying to ascertain the question. When you say similar to, what exists immediately in terms of bedroom numbers and the like?
Yeah, similar to as a single family home.
Yeah, look, it appears so. It's a 3-bedroom with a study, rumpus room, combined living kitchen. So it's it's a fairly standard type additional dwelling. Not multiple bathrooms. There are 2 bathrooms. So it looks like a standard family home, not like some of the others we might have seen previously in the street.
Yeah, and that's, I suppose, my point. There are still some family homes there, and still obviously that demand. So it's quite good to see this standard of development there.
Through you, Chair, why has it come to council? There's no representations.
Across the road reservation,
Is that that's at the front?
And adjacent to the park.
Yeah, I think there's infrastructure going into reserve, adjacent reserve.
That would be stormwater, would it?
Yeah, stormwater.
So stormwater will run into the little creek there.
Yep. That's correct.
Yeah. Now, look, I'm very familiar with this parcel of land. It's looked rather desolate for for several decades. So this outcome, I think, is probably not bad for that site. It's a bit cold and damp in the valley there, but anyway, each their own. So I guess it's a good use of a little parcel of land that doesn't have much going for it.
I don't think there were any representations against
None.
it. No.
Yeah.
Got any other comment? I'll put that as moved by the deputy.
No, I think
No, by Alderman Briscoe. Sorry. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against say no. Ayes have it. Oh, no, my computer's frozen. Well, here we go. Item 7.1.6. 424 Strickland Avenue, South Hobart.
Can I just ask through you, Chair, that there's half a dozen trees that are going to be removed from council land. I read through it, but I couldn't see that there was any significance towards those trees. Can I just get a clarification? Are these well-established trees? Are they habitat trees? Those that have been earmarked for removal?
Well, they've been assessed by arbor team, and they concluded that they can be removed. They don't have significance. And noting that this property does need an access point to the road. It's a vacant site.
Mm-hmm.
They have put a value on the trees, though, amenity value in the order of 3,600 for the 6 trees.
2,600.
3,600. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be a cost for the applicant to allow us to expend that money in providing trees elsewhere.
Mm.
Tree 6 is being protected though by condition, isn't it? Yeah, because it's a significant tree.
But I just couldn't see the details about the size of the trees, and a couple of them were not very healthy. But there was no detail about what sort of girth or width these trees had.
Maybe I can provide.
Nor was there photos that I could see.
That information out of session.
Any other questions?
I'll do a drive-by anyway, so I'm happy to
Drive
support
by
it
and a
tonight.
walk by?
Any other comment or questions? No? Okay, I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And say no. Ayes have it. Very good. What are we up to now? We're on Strickland Avenue. 7.1.7, 368 Macquarie Street, South Hobart, change of use to visitor use. Anybody want to kick this one off? Councillor Coates.
Move the recommendation.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, sort of some of the representations, I think there were a few, weren't there?
Is it 3?
3. I think, yeah, whereas we pointed out last time, there was just an political organisation that has put in representations against all these, but be called in by elected member, this one as well.
Any other comment? Deputy.
I'm not sure what Alderman Briscoe means by political organisation. Perhaps he'd like to explain that some more.
I'm not sure whether I could reveal who the representor is, but I think I did ask the question last council meeting through you, Chair, acting Chair or Chair. Can we name any representors in an open? No, I can't name it. If you look at the representor list, you could see which one I refer to. Councillor Burnett?
Through you, Chair, you know, I don't know that that's very helpful with the debate, but I'll let that one go. Chair, I'll be voting against this. Again, this is a situation where it's a whole house close to shops, and it's the impact on residential amenity, because it's a change in residential amenity, and I think is considerable. So I'll move for foreshadow for refusal.
Thank you, Doug. Any other comment? No, Councillor Dudley.
Thank you, Chair. Similarly, having read this and having read the report, I have a number of questions. And similarly, I think when I look at this and the empirical evidence which is lacking, I am of the view that clause E661P1 has not been satisfied, and therefore I'll be voting against the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, any other comment? No, okay. Look, I'm not going to say anything that I didn't say the former item that came up earlier on the short stay applications. I think the same thing applies, but with that said, I'll put that. All those in favour of the recommendation say aye. Aye. Against say no.
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 All those in favour?
Alderman Briscoe.
Councillor Coates.
Councillor Coates. Alderman Barakis.
And against?
Councillor Harvey, Councillor Dusser, and the Deputy.
So that's lost. Deputy, you had a foreshadow?
Yes. So I'll move the motion based on Planning Directive 6, that it doesn't meet those requirements, and also include parking as part of that. And just I'm voting because I feel that this is the wrong application for this place.
Okay, any other comments, or we flesh this one out already? No, all good. I'll put that then. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against say no. No. Show of hands. Favour?
Councillor Harvey, Councillor Dusser, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Against?
Alderman Briscoe.
Councillor Coates.
Councillor Coates.
He's still in election, post-election mode.
Yeah.
Okay. That's lost, so that'll go to full council in. And that will go without a recommendation. So next up we have...
Another contentious.
Oh, another one. 7.1.8, 370 Macquarie Street, change of use to visitor.
So we just, for sake of debate, we probably know what the answer is, but I move the recommendation of the officers, and noting all these officers recommended change of use to visitor accommodation have got a management plan built into it as part of a condition.
Quite.
Which, yeah.
Now I'm sure somebody else has got a foreshadowed motion. Who's next? Councillor Dudley.
I would foreshadow a recommendation for refusal under Directive 6 and also E661P1. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, is there further debate, or we'll take it all as read? I'll move the recommendation as I'll put the recommendation as moved by Alderman Briscoe. All those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Say no.
No. The no's are much more convincing.
Show of hands. All those in favour?
Alderman Briscoe.
We should
Councillor
vote.
Coates,
We should vote by email, shouldn't we?
All those against? All those against?
Councillor Harvey, Councillor Dutta, Deputy Lord Mayor.
That's lost. And we have a foreshadowed by Councillor Dutta. Did you want to speak to it at all, or we'll just take it? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against say no. No. Show of hands, all those in favour?
Councillor Harvey, Councillor Dutta, Deputy Lord Mayor.
And against?
Alderman Briscoe, Councillor Coates and Alderman Baracus.
In the good old days, people did change their minds.
And that's lost, and so that will once again go to full council without a recommendation, and I'm sure we'll all see these in the close in a few months' time.
Or if they don't get through council.
Oh well. Okay, so now we move on to item 8.1. We have reports. So did anybody want to start this off, or did the Councillor Harvey?
I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation that we don't support the proposal to amend the Tasmanian land use strategy by extending the urban growth boundary of Druthi Point. We do have a review coming. If you could just verify that through you, Chair, to the Director.
Yes, that's correct. As you would know, we have the 30-year Greater Hobart Plan that's currently out for public consultation. And once that plan is finalised, and there's no doubt that this proposal could be considered as part of that Greater Hobart Plan, that finalised Greater Hobart Plan will then be form the basis of the review of the Southern Tasmanian Regional Land Use Strategy, which should occur commence in 12 months' time, thereabouts. So the officer are of the view that this may well be premature. It should be considered as part of the Greater Hobart Plan, and if appropriate, included in that plan, and ultimately would go forward with Australis.
Yeah, well, I think that's the most sensible position for Council to take, so I'm supportive of the officer's recommendation.
Alderman Briscoe and then Councillor Coates.
Sad that the Clarence Council haven't made a determination. I think the similar sorts of things we've had the council's involved report. I think the Brighton one had a report. I think the last time we considered change in the growth UGB, urban growth border, we had a council decision from I think it might have been down.
It was
Clarence.
Clarence.
Down that way. It was Clarence.
It was Clarence, I
Yeah.
think, was
Yeah, look,
another one.
There's certainly, I think because this is such a big one, and it's not just a small little suburban subdivision, which no one has really any great concerns with, I'm sure in sensible people, I'd say, wouldn't have it. But this one is huge, has the ability to change Druthi Point forever. It also, there is an old whaling station at the end of Druthi Point there, very historic one, which would be impacted. And when the first plan for Druthi Point, or extension of Tranmere, the planners then rightly put, I think, 24 hectare limits on the size of properties on the other side of Druthi, not the one we're looking at. Also, Hobart City Council does own some land up there. We've got a communication thing there as well. I think, now I hate to say it really, but I do agree with Councillor Harvey here. He is right. I think in this case he is right. It is such a big one, it could be under the review, and so I'll be supporting. I think you've moved it, Councillor Harvey?
I have.
Yeah, I'll be supporting that.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
A little bit of common sense for once. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Having read the report by staff and their reason and rationale to explain why we should take this particular recommendation, I'm quite satisfied with the recommendation, and therefore will be voting with the recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Coates.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I'll be very brief. When these have come up in the past, I've always preferred that we don't provide a view. I mean, ultimately, we've been provided with a letter from Clarence, I know, asking for a view, and we've been provided with a summary of a master plan from Skylands, but we really don't have all the evidence in front of us. I have every faith and trust in the Clarence Council, in their decision-making process and their ability to ultimately weigh up evidence either for and against. And so, admittedly, they are asking us for a view if we have one, but my sort of default position on these is, unless we have very strong evidence to the contrary, or we know from some unique perspective that we have, being the City of Hobart, that's going to have a detrimental impact here, we should always err to the side of, well, we don't necessarily have an opinion for or against. And I know that some would argue that's not a strong position to take, but I think ultimately the reason that they're going down this path is because they've had a proposal put to them, and they're trying to work out, is it appropriate, is it not appropriate? But ultimately, they're in a much better position to come to that determination, keeping in mind that this parcel of land really does sit, although as the crow flies, reasonably close to the City of Hobart. In terms of actual access, it is a reasonable distance away. And ultimately, I think it is really for the people of Clarence City Council, to come to a determination. And I'd hate to think that somehow Hobart sort of was used as a reason either for or against. And so I think we ultimately should just say, look, from our perspective, we don't take a side. We believe that you guys are in the best place to make a determination on this. And look, ultimately we're being asked today to provide a view based on, ultimately I think, is our officer's report based upon the evidence that's here, but all the evidence is a Skylands plan. So look, hopefully the 30-year plan, master plan, gets done quickly, because that'll ameliorate these things. But I think the reason that Clarence are seeing these developments come through is because the need is there, the urgency is there, the demand for housing is there. And look, my default position, and I think one that we should undertake as a council, is to say that we don't want to try for a view, either for or against, and that's the view of the City of Hobart, and ultimately have faith and trust in Clarence to get all the information, gather all the evidence, and come to their own determination.
Chair. Question for the Director. Did I not read somewhere that the Minister requires this to occur? The Minister requests that other councils seek the views of councils with regard to urban growth boundary movement?
Chair, through you, Chair, that is correct. That is the Minister's desire for the council to form an opinion one way or the other.
Okay. So everything that Councillor Coates said was probably irrelevant.
Well, it is open for council to not have an opinion.
That was going to be my question. I think it is still within our rights to proffer no opinion.
But we've been asked for it by the Minister.
Point of clarification, I would see no opinion, neither for nor against, as being an opinion.
It's not an opinion.
What's an opinion that it doesn't affect us?
And what you're basically saying is, whatever happens in the surrounding Greater Hobart, you don't care about the implications for that on Hobart. So as long as we can continue to see urban sprawl, that will always have an implication for Hobart, as traffic seeks to move in, to drive into town every morning. And when you don't see alternative modes of transport, such as ferries and buses and things that'll help relieve the pressure of cars streaming in from an expanding urban area into the city, then we will see continued impacts on Hobart. So I think it's completely relevant to us to have a view on how far and wide Greater Hobart expands into the future.
If I could respond, Chair. Look, I agree with you, But that's
Thank
not the
you.
evidence
I will
that's in
move
front of
on.
us. The evidence in front of us is we've got the Skylands master plan, and we've got our council officers saying, look, they'd prefer this process was done through the Greater Hobart 30-year strategy. But what I'm saying is, unless we've got very strong evidence that's going to have a hugely detrimental impact to the City of Hobart, our default position should be to proffer no opinion. I agree with you. If we have evidence that's going to cause all sorts of issues, but I don't see that evidence in front of me. I see a proposal that clients will consider. They're not necessarily going to come down in favour of it either. And I also see that they've sought our opinion. I think at the moment the appropriate step for us is to say, well, we don't wish to make an opinion at this time. On the evidence in front of me, I've got what appears to be a proposal for some housing. I know that Greater Hobart needs housing. We've got, I don't necessarily have evidence in front of me that it's going to cause huge increases to congestion, to traffic, to issues of that nature. In fact, the officers, as I read their report, they don't necessarily speak down that track. They speak more to, well, they'd prefer this be done through another avenue of process. And look, I don't necessarily disagree with their recommendation. All I'm saying is my default position would be that in this instance, we don't provide them, and I think that is a view. There is perfectly legitimate to have a view which is to say, well, we don't wish to take a side, and we trust you to gather the evidence and make your own decisions.
Okay.
So Deputy was up next, and then I might proffer my opinion.
Thank you. Thanks. Look, I think we are asked to make a decision, and it's quite clear in how the minister, organises this. And it's, to me, 2.6, 2.6.1, 0.2 and 0.3 make it really clear as to why good planning is at stake here. Like if we said, yeah, this is great, it kind of just flies in the face of urban growth boundaries. It flies in the face of overall 30-year planning, the Greater Hobart Plan, the wider potential impact of the proposal on traffic, and the potential cumulative impacts of extensions to the urban growth boundary. So, we're paid the big bucks to make the decision, unfortunately, whatever that might mean in this sort of situation, and I thank the officers for this report.
Thank you, Deputy. Look, just quickly, and I think I'll take what everybody said in fairness, and what Councillor Harvey said as far as we don't want to go ahead and do these things if we don't have an understanding of the impact it'll have on our traffic congestion and general mobility in and out of our city.
At this point in time.
And he did mention ferries, and I'll note that we do have ferries currently. It's as a new emerging form of transport. But look, the point I'll make, and I won't read out the whole thing, but I've got an excerpt from the Greater Hobart Plan in front of me. And it does say here, the main areas identified for infill and greenfield development, including future growth areas within each council are Clarence, primarily infill with some greenfield, including in already identified future growth areas such as Drudy Point Peninsula. I do think, and it wasn't noted by the director, that these are areas that will potentially likely come into the future growth boundary when these plans are ratified. I think if we're opposing something that's almost certainly going to happen, we're delaying the inevitable. We have something that, as Councillor Coates said, will be putting in much needed housing, and in the context of having a plan that will be coming in front of us with all these things that have been suggested, considered, that will likely be making the same recommendation. So I won't be supporting the recommendations. There are actually elements to the substantive recommendations that I do agree with. It's only part one where I sort of fall over in, but given that the votes don't seem to be overly marginal or tight, rather than sort of waste time and vote on them individually, we'll just let it go, because I don't think it will change the result. So did anybody else have any comment to make, or else I'll put the motion? No. In that case, I'll put the motion as moved by Councillor Harvey. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against say no. No. Show of hands in favour.
Alderman Briscoe, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Dusser, Deputy Lord Mayor.
And against?
Councillor Coates, Alderman Baracus.
That'll go to full council. Next we have 8.2 City Planning Advertising Report.
So moved.
Any,
Thank you, Chair. There are a number that I'll mention. The first is 106 Cascade Road. There's an application for temporary housing. There has been a little bit of confusion. We've received some feedback from the community that they're concerned that there'll be something different happening on that site compared to what's currently there. That's not the case. There's just simply an application to extend what's currently happening at that site. The other one I'll just flag is the application for 156 Newtown Road, which was recently before the committee with a suggestion that the applicant speak to the representors. They've actually amended their application or made a new application, and that will come before the committee next round, I believe.
comments? No, I'll put that then. All those in
I
favour?
wonder if I could just ask a question. The
Yes, Alderman Briscoe.
$7 million one, 150.
That's what Ms. Avey was just referring to.
Oh, right. Oh, okay, sorry, I might have been sort of Mr. Councillor Coates' space then. Sorry, Councillor Coates.
Any other comments? No, I'll put that then. All those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against say no. That's carried. Thought I was going to be silent there for a sec. 8.3 Delegated Decision Report.
So moved.
Harvey, any comments? No. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against say no. It's moved. 9.1 I think's next. Committee Action Status Report.
I move that. We've received and noted.
Alderman Briscoe, thank you. Any comment or questions? No, I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And say no. Very good. And then we have questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Coates?
Just to get updated figures, and I know hopefully the work from February can be rehashed, but through your chair to the director, do you have any information as to how many hotel rooms are currently off the market because they have been taken over for a temporary purpose, i.e. COVID?
I'll take that.
Your obsession.
Question unnoticed.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions? No. Thank you very much then. I'll ask somebody to move that we close the
So moved.
open.